Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to House of Joy.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're so glad to be here,
yes,
aren't we, Em?
We're so glad to be here. I'm ravishing in pink.
You are ravishing in pink. I just commented on your cutie pink shirt and your cutie pink shoes.
I'll have you guys know that I never thought of myself as like a hot pink girl ever in my life. Like, that was never me, wouldn't you say?
I always thought of myself as a hot pink girl.
Yeah, I know you have. Everybody already knows that. That's not news to anybody. But what was it that I wore pink? Oh, Love is Magic, that pink dress.
Adorable.
And I saw myself in that pink dress, and I was like, wait.
Is pink my color?
Do I kind of like pink? And I've bought 3 pink things since then.
Embrace it, Em.
And I think if I style it correctly, like, I actually do think that it's, like, a good pop of color. But, yeah, anyway, I'm just
We need to get our colors done, everyone. That's not what this episode is about, but let's go get our colors done. If you are listening to this podcast and you do colors, let us know because
also,
we want to get our colors done.
If you're watching on YouTube, I feel like I look back on episodes and I'm like talking to the people as if they can see me every time. But like the majority of you don't watch on YouTube, but
come on over.
Come on over. It's fun over here.
Yeah.
You get to see a whole new perspective. I feel like the podcast that I watch, like that I listen to and then I watch, it's like different experience.
It's different. Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to say is sometimes the lighting on these podcasts, like, I was just saying, like, I have enough blush on and I have enough bronzer on. But if you saw me in the camera, you'd probably be like, oh, she kind of, like, looks like she needs a little more blush. I don't. Like, in real life, I'm
fine.
I have the perfect amount of blush on.
I never feel like I have enough blush. And then people will send me mean comments and go, calm down on the blush, girl.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, you always are
haters?
So tan. And so on every podcast, like, it evens out because, like, you look normal on
the camera. Because in real life.
No, that's not what I meant. That isn't what I meant. But
yeah, it's a little cray-cray.
No, that's not what I meant. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's kind of rude to me when the lighting is, like this sometimes.
Anyways, we're so glad you're here, you guys. We're going to talk about literally, I think, my favorite topic to talk about in the world. And the reason it became my favorite topic is because I spent most of my life really misunderstanding it. Mm-hmm. And this is what almost all of my clients come to me with. And it's some version of, I feel like I'm a little lost in this season. I feel like I don't really know what my purpose is right now. I feel like I don't even know who I am, know what I want. And literally some version of that comes up in almost every coaching call. I was on a coaching call yesterday and it came up and it was like my heart swells because I'm like, I know I can help you. If this is the thing you're struggling with, I know I can help you because I have struggled with it for so long, thinking that when I get the right job, when I make the right amount of money, then I will feel like everything is so meaningful and so purposeful. But what I kind of want to talk about today related to this is I want to go through a couple of different creation cycles. Now, Emily May got certified as a coach, and she is a lot newer than I am to doing thought work and to doing creation cycles. So we're going to work through this together, and we're going to compare. When you have the thought, I don't feel very purposeful. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't even know what I want. When that is your predominant belief, thought in this season of life, we're kind of going to go through how that shows up in your life, how it shows up for you emotionally, how it shows up in the actions you take, and how you can shift that to something which is probably more what you want. What if your thought was, my life is so full of purpose and meaning. Every single day feels so rich, so abundant, so expansive. I feel on fire for my life. Like, do you feel the contrast of those two ways of thinking? Now, what I find with my clients and what I find with myself sometimes is that we just look around and go, I just don't feel very inspired. I don't know what my purpose is. I'm in this season of life that feels kind of lackluster. Usually it comes after some kind of transition.
Yep.
And I know you have struggled with this too. Like changing jobs and feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know if I love this, or I'm not sure. Like you have some doubt or some questions about it. And I kind of want to work through the two different creation cycles. And that's basically just the tool I teach. It's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy where your thoughts create your feelings, create your actions. I teach it in a cycle because I think it goes both ways. And I also think it's not linear. It's not just, some people teach it in like a very linear fashion, and I don't ever experience it in a linear fashion. And I like talking about it from all different angles. And mostly my favorite way to talk about it is from the emotional experience it gives you.
Right.
When you're living from a place of, I love my life, I'm on fire for my life, I'm so full of purpose. When you train yourself to live like that, how you experience your own life is so different
Right.
than how you experience your life when you stay stuck in a cycle of, I don't know what I want, I don't know what my purpose is, I feel a little lost. So I want to ask you, when you were in your big transition, do you have a predominant thought, maybe even that comes up for you sometimes? And if not, we can just use one of the ones that I mentioned. But anything that comes up for you when I say that, like, oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
Well, I was actually going to say before you asked me that, and I will get to answer your question, what my thought is. But it's interesting because when I was in the transition or in my other job, I've talked about it a lot on here, how I was feeling and all of those things. But I have very much been proven in this season that I'm currently in that it actually does not matter what you're doing. And it does not matter if you're living your dream life or if you're in a job that you felt was miserable. Like, It does not matter because I'm actually still...
Because you still have the same brain, right?
I have the same brain, and I still have been proven even more that, like, it is just me thinking that I have not yet arrived where I should be, right?
Should we take a break really quick and sing, It's Me?
Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Yeah. It is me. And actually it's just so funny because I feel like even the past few weeks, I've been so down on myself in my brain. And it's something that I've talked a lot about on here. And I'm sure you guys are like, okay, girl, like at the end of the day, are you okay?
We had such a good chat about it too, like related things.
No, we did. And I think like what I have been learning is that it is really truly like what I'm telling myself.
Yes.
And I think a thought that I really struggle with is that like you're not doing enough. And I think I felt that a lot in my other job because I was like,
always felt behind.
Well, not even behind, but like, well, you're not doing what you really want to do, so you're not doing enough.
So you're not doing enough.
And now I feel like, well, I'm not doing enough because I'm doing too much of what I want to do and not enough, like, grinding. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like basically the same thought, but in two different instances.
Right. So this is going to be perfect. We're going to take this thought, we're going to run it through a creation cycle and see what happens. And I want you to do this with whatever your thought is. So take out a piece of paper.
I could give you like 20 more thoughts too. So like, if we run out of time.
We'll kind of go through. We'll do. I'm not doing enough as part of it. I also think, like so many women my age are at a season of life where they're like, it's a different version of that, but it's like, now what? Like I've done
and I
this.
Also sometimes feel like that too. It's like, what else could I be doing?
Yeah.
Because I have all these, because we talked about this too, because I have like actual tasks during my day or during a week that I have to get done. So even if I feel like I'm not doing enough, I still am doing
the tasks.
And then I think
that has a very different feeling than what I'm saying. So that's what I want to work through, because this is so helpful. This is so helpful for everybody, for how you're experiencing your own life. Okay. So if you take the thought, I'm not doing enough, Let's also take the thought, I feel a little lost in this season, or I don't even know what I should be doing or what my purpose is.
I feel lost is a good one, too.
Yeah. So let's take that. How do you feel when that is your predominant thought? What's the emotion that comes up?
Well, for me, when I am thinking I'm not doing enough, I feel lazy and like unmotivated. I literally feel like a lot of times I physically feel tired.
Yep. Because that's not a very energizing thought.
No,
right?
And I've literally called Mom multiple times in the last month, and I talked about this the last episode we filmed.
Yeah.
That like I literally just don't. I've been traveling so much, and I've just not felt like myself because.
Yeah.
And I know
there could be definitely a physical aspect to that.
Yeah, I've been going.
And we were talking about that this weekend. There's obviously a physical aspect to it. But how are you contributing to that?
Also
mentally?
With the traveling, it's like your schedule's a lot different, and I'm not just home like having my routine.
Yeah.
And I really thrive on a routine anyway. Like I just do a lot better when I force myself to follow a more strict routine. But anyway, while I've been traveling, a huge thought I've been having is like, I'm just not doing enough. I feel so lazy. Like, and I physically, literally feel tired all of the time. Like I have felt straight up tired to my bones for like a month.
Yeah. And you've basically been traveling most of that time. Yeah. So this is good. So when you feel unmotivated, you feel lazy, you feel, I think my women would say like a little hopeless. Like, gosh, I can remember a time when my life did feel so purposeful, when I was on fire, when I knew what I wanted, when I knew what I was doing. It's like the contrast of feeling that way versus feeling like, and so if we look at the cycle, thoughts create feelings, feelings drive actions, or feelings drive inaction. So what are the actions that we often take when we feel like I don't have any purpose, I'm not doing enough? Because from that sort of unmotivated, like hopeless or whatever the feeling is, what are the actions that we take from those feelings?
I mean, personally, mine's more of inaction. I feel like I am way more, like, because I'm feeling so lazy, like, I just more am sitting around. And even when I'm, like, on a walk or, like, doing the things that I should be doing.
Yeah.
I am so hard on myself even then that, like, I don't give anything my full good effort because I already told myself, like, even if I'm at the gym, I know
you're kind of like half doing it. Yeah. This is so good. I mean, I've just noticed this so much in my own life. This is why I get excited about it, because I noticed this in myself. And so long in my life, like after I stopped working and started staying home, I just felt so lost. And I always had that thought, I'm not doing enough. What more should I be doing? I don't even know how to do this well. Mm-hmm. Like, what does it look like to be a stay-at-home mom? Like, I just felt so lost and so confused and so not doing enough. And what that led to, because that's such a terrible feeling to carry around all the time, is it led to not great actions.
Yeah.
So for me, it led to I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating well. I was overspending. I was finding like any quick little fix to kind of feel temporarily better from how bad that I was making my own self feel from the thoughts I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And I stayed stuck in that cycle for a long time. And I kept thinking to myself, well, there's going to be something external that changes that's going to change that. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to start working again. Maybe I need to, like, you know, or a lot of times it'll be, well, maybe I need to change jobs. Or maybe I need to, you know, we think of all the things externally. If I had more money, if I had a spouse, if I had kids, if I didn't have kids, like no matter what station you're in life, you always think that somebody else over there has it figured out, has it better than you. That's why they have so much purpose.
And I need to do something to get like that.
And I need to do something to get like that. People say this to me all the time because I think they sense that I have learned how to really renew my mind enough to live from a place most of the time of like kind of on fire for life, full of meaning, full of purpose. But it took me a long time.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that it was me, that I'm the one in control of that nothing else needs to help outside me, that I have gotten in a pattern of thinking and a pattern of being that is not great, but I'm the one who can choose a new pattern.
Right.
And I think it's so common. And if you compare and contrast the two creation cycles, so the creation cycle where you're saying to yourself all the time, I'm so tired, I feel so lost, I feel like I don't have any purpose anymore, I feel like I'm never doing enough, like that, those are very scarce kind of negative thoughts. You stay in that thought pattern, it creates emotions that aren't fun to experience. And then because we're humans, we just want escape from those emotions. So the actions we take tend to be things that temporarily make us feel better, right? And then we just stay stuck in that cycle, and it kind of gets worse and worse and worse.
And you talk about this a lot, but what I've been experiencing because of the like thoughts that I've been having so often is first of all, like you find every single way, like I feel like when you're thinking that, every single thing that happens to you proves it, your point,
right? Except you're just proving it to yourself,
right? Yeah, like your mind is just making that a reason that's true.
And because then what happens, like what happened to me, what I did is I proved myself right. I am lost now in this season.
Yes.
I am lacking purpose because what I'm doing is overspending, not eating well, kind of miserable, not showing up to my relationships the way I want. Like I'm proving that right to myself.
And the longer that you're in that cycle, at least for like, I kind of feel like I've been low key in this cycle for a couple months, honestly. And it's interesting because I do the baseline things. Like if someone looked at my life, they probably wouldn't.
They might not
know or
say
see that like that's how I feel. But you get so in that cycle of thinking that, and I know the tools. Like I've been through coach certification. Like I know to explore my thoughts, and I know that my thoughts aren't real. But if you've been in that cycle, even in you knowing is sometimes not enough. Like it feels so, what's the word? Like inevitable. Like it's not like you can really change it.
You think you can't.
You think you can't. Yeah.
You're convinced that there's something inherently wrong with you, or that there's something
or like
broken
something
about
else
you,
is wrong,
or something else is wrong.
Like you can't change or whatever.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because like when I got certified, you kind of have a light bulb moment where it's like, oh, I'll never get that way again. I will never get back there.
Except we do.
Well, and it is interesting because even before we had our talk in the car, I really had convinced myself that like, well, this must be like real problems because I already know.
You were like, I need new mind.
You were like,
I need blood work. Something's not right. I'm like, that might be true.
But it could, I mean, I still haven't gotten blood work, so I'm still going to do that.
Might be true.
But
I think you definitely should check that. But I also said, like, even if something, were to show up, like, oh, you're anemic, or oh, whatever, something were to show up, you're contributing, all of us in the way we think are contributing so much to how we deal with the circumstances that we're given.
Yes.
And I think I just could feel, it was crazy because when we started on that trip, I could feel your heaviness. Mm-hmm. Like I could feel that you were kind of wrestling with something.
Yes.
And it's so funny because in the car, when I said to you, like, I just said something that was like a probing, I can't even remember what I said, but
I can't either.
It was a probing question, like, well, let's, I really wanted to talk about it and like, let's get to the bottom of it. And as soon as I said whatever I said, tears came in your eyes. And I'm like, oh,
it's so funny too, looking back at the car ride, because the night before, or maybe it wasn't the night before, I think it was, you had listened to this book
and for the second time,
and I was sitting in the front seat and she was absolutely on fire. And here I am like feeling so like
down and
like whatever. And Mom's like, yeah, I listened to this book on the plane, like literally, and it's about 10xing your life and like basically all the opposite ways of what I'm feeling. And she was like, no, just for like you, imagine what you could bring. Like she's going on, which I'm so glad that you did now. But in the
But I'm
moment,
sure it was very
even
annoying.
then, I was like, in the moment, like, she doesn't understand, like, what I'm feeling. And then in the car the next day, you just asked just a couple of questions. And I literally was driving and couldn't even speak, just like the emotions. I think I was just in that cycle where it wasn't even allowing myself to explore the fact that maybe I am creating this, because once you give yourself like, okay, maybe I do have control over this, it does release so much that you've been holding.
Yeah.
And
I could see it. The more we talked, if you could have put a time lapse on you, it just felt like you were like so relieved.
Yeah, and I literally told her at the end of that conversation, we were almost home. Like, we had basically been talking for the whole time. And I literally felt like physically lighter and physically, like, it's crazy, like less tired. Like, even I told her on that drive home, I'm like, Mom, I'm not even kidding. Like, I feel in behind my eyes, like at any point I could shut my eyes and go to sleep. And at the end of the conversation, literally did not feel like that at the end.
Yeah.
And the past couple days, like, I feel like I have...
Oh, you have a totally different energy than you had before.
It is insane.
I know. Yeah, and I think this is the reason this resonates so much with people is because many of us have experienced this. I can remember a time in my life before I learned these tools and got healthy. One of my first real breakthroughs, when I left that therapist's office that day, I felt 1,000 pounds lighter. Mm-hmm. Like it was a before and after that I'll never forget. And I remember when I learned this principle of like that I truly am responsible for the way I experience my life. In every way. I'm not responsible for what happens to me, but I am always responsible for how I respond to that. And it changed everything. And then I keep forgetting the lessons, and I get into a place where you've been, where you're like, no, this is different. This is, and again, it's not that there might not be something, and we should check that out, but also how much are we contributing to feeling this way by thinking thoughts over and over, like we get stuck in those patterns of thinking, right? So contrast that to really, truly, and listen, this is a skill you develop. This is actually what we teach in Life Mentoring School. We teach you how to develop mindset skills to train yourself to think differently. So I'm not saying that this is, you think this overnight thought one time, it's overnight, and it's going to be better. It doesn't work that way. But let's just imagine that you got yourself to a point where your brain just over and over had the thought of, I love my life. I am so excited to get up in the morning. My life is so full of purpose and meaning. The experience I have of my own life blows my mind. Like, just imagine how you would feel every day if you trained yourself over time. And it's like building a muscle. It's like going to the gym. It takes a while to build that muscle. But imagine what your experience of life would be like if that's really the thoughts you had over and over and over.
Well, even thinking about, like, the thoughts I was having before that feel so automatic, like, it's just is how it is. If you think about it, you had to train yourself to have those on a loop too.
Yes.
And so we think it's impossible, especially me, like, even hearing you, like, there's resistance in my heart, like, oh, like, that just is so easy for you. Yeah. But at some point, I trained myself to think, for some reason, like, it's not like it just popped out of nowhere. I'm sure there's something that really made this, pop into my brain. But at some point, I trained myself to think, you're not doing enough, you're lost, all these things. That just didn't come from nowhere either.
Right.
And why not make something else?
Yeah, because this is so important. Because literally, the truest freedom there is the freedom of what you think and experience, how you see your life and how you experience it. I read a book years ago there's a couple of books that come to mind, but one is Viktor Frankl, and he experienced all of these horrific things. You think of the Apostle Paul, he's in prison, Literally in prison, writing these letters about freedom and liberty, and
his attitude is clearly like
he has found freedom in prison.
Yes.
Like, for sure, your circumstances are not dictating this. So if you're free to create any looping thought and to create any experience of your life that you want, and you are, why would we keep choosing something that made us feel low energy and depressed and like a victim? And like, why would we keep choosing that? And I remember when this became an epiphany for me, I'm like, this is going to be worth working for. This is why, I know we mentioned this on the last podcast, this is why that I listened to that guided meditation literally thousands of times, because I'm like, this brain right
is going to loop in my brain.
If something's going to loop in my brain. Yes. And, you know, I grew up in, you know, Southern Appalachia, where the phrase on repeat in my head when I was young, my dad's mom, we called her Mamaw. My mamaw would say all the time, my life is nothing but pure hell. So that's what I had, you know, fed to me.
That's what you believed.
On repeat. And if that is what you know, you're fed, and you continue to allow that to be the soundtrack of your brain, you're going to have a life that doesn't look great and doesn't feel great. And so when I have done this myself, when I watch my clients do this, it's such a stark difference in how you show up to your life. So imagine if those were your thoughts, the ones we just said earlier. I wake up every morning. I love my life. I am so grateful for this amazing life I've been given. I live with so much purpose and so much joy and so much meaning. If that's what you have going on repeat, how do you feel internally? Well, you feel motivated and full of joy and excited about the day and passionate about your life. And then what do you do? Like, if you loop the creation cycle, thoughts, feelings, actions, what actions do you take from that? Here's the crazy thing. You take actions, and it doesn't even really matter what they are, but you take them with purpose and passion. So, you know, it's funny because when we were traveling, this trip that we took to Pittsburgh, Emmy made us laugh so hard on the way home, because she was talking about how we show up to something. She goes, yeah, we just roll in and we're loud and we're engaging with the people. We fall in love with whoever's there. We laugh like hyenas. We bawl cry before we leave, and then we're out. She said, we're like some kind of Tennessee tornado. I'm like, we are kind of like some Tennessee tornado. But what I took from that, besides laughing so hard I peed my pants, is that it's how you show up to everything. It's not just, do I have this amazing job that I love? No, it's like when I play pickleball, when I make Tom a sandwich, when I record a podcast, when I wake surf with Stevie. Like, can I train myself to show up to every little thing with that amount of purpose, passion, meaning?
And that's where, like, for me, as an overthinker already, like, I'm already battling a million thoughts about a certain situation. And when you're overthinking, it's usually overthinking because you're thinking about something in a negative way. Like, you wouldn't really be overthinking a situation if you had positive thoughts about the situation. And so I can really get into this, like, spiral inwardly. Like, I really don't have a lot of that outwardly, but because you're overthinking, like, what happens when you're on a negative thought cycle is, like, it's not just one negative thought that you are looping.
Oh, no. They like to multiply those negative ones,
and
too.
So it's so important for me, especially anyone, period, but especially when you have an overthinking tendency. Like, you have to be purposeful about what you think about. Or else it will all be super
a negative spiral.
Or scared or fearful. Like, it's just so much easier for me to get down that because already I'm, like, very introspective. I'm very in my head. Like, I already am like that. And it can be a beautiful thing if you're super introspective about, like, beautiful life-giving things.
But also you have to train yourself to that.
Yes. And I think I like to give myself the excuse that, like, and talk down on myself that, like, even if I did that, even if I started doing that, like, it wouldn't, and that's another thought, like, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't take hold, like.
And then you have to ask yourself, okay, that's interesting. So this is what I do with myself. Oh, that's interesting that my brain is, and this is how our brains are wired, you guys. Our brains are so hell-bent on finding the next thing that might hurt us, the next negative thing. So as soon as you give your brain relief in one thing, it'll go, yeah, but what about this? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's your brain's job to keep you safe. And it does that by feeding you thoughts that it thinks are going to keep you safe. Like, oh, did you think about this? Well, what about this? Did you think about this? And I think you just don't make that a problem. You go, man, my brain loves to offer me the next negative thought, and I am here and ready to renew that, answer that. One way that I like to think about it too is like, how does God see the situation? Like, giving yourself a bigger perspective. You know, how does he see the situation? How does he feel about this life he's given us? Yeah. He's pretty dang jazzed about it. Yeah. And I like to think, like, okay, what I'm trying to learn how to do is see it like him. My old nature, my false self, my worry self, my fear self likes to keep going there. But what does it look like to keep renewing my mind and keep seeing it through the lens that he sees it, the preciousness of this life we've been given, the brevity of it, the chance to create heaven on earth for ourselves and, you know, for the people we love. And that kind of helps me too. It kind of gives me like a bigger perspective than just, because kind of a lot of times what we're doing is we're worrying and fearful and frustrated with all of the daily things that we forget, like, I think the bigger vision. The higher calling, the bigger vision, you know.
And I think that's how I look back at this last few months of, like, that's exactly what I have been doing, is focusing so much on the day to day in a way that's not healthy, like really focusing on a negative thing that happened, or like, I don't know. It's very much not taking a step back. And having perspective. It's very much staying in this bubble and choosing not to look at, you know?
Yeah. And don't you find, because this is kind of, I think, what you experienced when we were talking about it, like, don't you find that there's a little part of us that wants to go, don't take my negativity away from me. This is really bad.
That's, I think, how I was feeling in the car when you were like, 10x your life. I'm like, seriously, stop trying to pull me out of this, because I am here. I'm sat, and you cannot give me your inspiring talk right now, girl. I'm mad.
And the thing of it is, though, I think what I saw happen for you is that you finally, and we talked about this is so important too, is that when we're in often a worry cycle, we have disconnected ourselves from our bodies. In a way, we're kind of ignoring ourselves. In a way, we won't let ourselves, we want to stay in a worry cycle, but we won't even say the thing.
Yes.
We won't even say it out loud.
Yes.
And there's so much relief when we can just say the thing, be where we are, experience the emotions we're experiencing, say the thing we're worried about, say the thing that's heavy on our hearts. I remember I was going through this like earlier this year, right before Tom's adoption, and I was feeling the heaviness of it, but I thought, well, I can't express that this is hard for me, because does that invalidate that it's hard for him? So I just held it all in, and it was making me feel heavy and emotional, and like, but I wouldn't say it. And I remember I was on a coaching call with my coach, and I remember fearfully saying it, and I felt so bad to even say that it was hard for me, or this is what I was struggling with, because I'm like, you know, this has got to be so hard for him, and who am I to have to make it about me? But when we ignore ourselves like that, then we do end up living kind of disconnected from ourselves, where we're not acknowledging what we're struggling with, where we're not acknowledging the thoughts that are going around in our heads. And whether you acknowledge them or not, you're going to see the evidence of them. You're going to see that those thoughts become reality. And you're going to see that if you keep thinking that, and staying in that pattern, you'll watch it come to life. And I have just seen it so many times that when I can get myself in the place where this is how I want to think about my life, this is how I want to experience it internally, I start taking actions that are so fun and powerful and productive and, feel easy. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like it doesn't feel so hard.
Yeah, and that's how literally I think, especially when you think about your ego, and I feel like looking back, it's like, I know I feel like this, but I really don't want everyone else to know. Because you want to protect your ego and how you really want to be perceived.
Yes.
And
literally, that is so true.
Everything that I was doing felt so hard. Like I said, like I really I look back in Minnesota, like I would go to work out, we would walk, like it's not like I've abandoned and I'm just like depressed laying in bed all day. Right. But everything felt
You're doing the things, but it feels hard because you don't have your mind on board with you.
So hard.
Yeah.
And then your ego is even more hurt because it's like you're telling yourself this stuff should be easy. Like this is like the non-negotiables for your day. You're not even going above and beyond for what like you really want to create for yourself.
Yeah.
And so, it literally creates this pattern where it does feel impossible to get out of it until, like, I feel like in the car, just let my ego down.
Just let your guard
just
down.
Like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And, you express that,
you
like,
just said things
worry.
That you have, right. And saying those thoughts or saying that, there's so much relief in that because I think part of the relief comes from just acknowledging ourselves, like not ignoring yourself, acknowledging that you're struggling, acknowledging that this has felt hard, acknowledging, like whatever it is for me, acknowledging that going through that felt really hard for me too. Well, and it doesn't diminish that it's hard for him.
And I think too, like looking back, like I was telling Mom when I called her about like, there's something wrong with me. I literally called her last week. I'm not kidding. There is something wrong with me. I do not feel like myself. Like, listing all these things that we have talked about. I have been, like, chewing at my nails. Not done that in forever. Like, picking at my skin to a degree. Like, even Haddon was like, okay, I think there is something maybe wrong with you. Because he's seeing, like, the outward.
He's seeing the actions.
And he's like, this is not like her.
Yeah.
And, it's just crazy how it manifests. Like, the stress that I am putting on my body, like, even my Oura ring, like, I'm so much more stressed every day. It literally affects me so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there couldn't be, like
other
you
things.
said, like, there could obviously be, like, things happening otherwise. But the way
But if you're not sick from it, you can make yourself stressed and sick from it if you're not already, right?
Yes. And so I definitely, like, already feel so much relief. And I think being vulnerable and opening up to yourself in ways is so scary because it can sometimes bring things up that you really don't want to deal with. Or, like, once you open one thing, then it kind of starts to expand.
Truth is like this, you guys. When you allow yourself to say the truth in one area, it just is contagious. It's like a domino, and it's so beautiful when you can come to a place where you're living your life from the truth. And by that, I mean from the highest good, from the highest truth that God has for us, which I don't think, for me, I wallowed in the difficulty of my past for so many years. I don't think that's God's highest best for me, right?
Yes.
And so learning, I can tell myself a different story about my past. I can tell myself a different story about this phase I'm in life right now. I can rewrite this. I can have new thoughts, new beliefs, and decide, like, okay, what's a way that I can tell this story that really inspires me, that makes me motivated to keep creating the life I want to create? And when you do that, then everything you do feels like you're not waiting for the right thing to come along because the purpose is you. It's the way you do everything. It's what you bring to a party that you go to. It's what you bring to your marriage. It's what you bring to your work. It's what you bring to everything. And you are the one bringing it. It's not like, I think we think like, oh, there's some external thing that's going to make me feel so purposeful, that's going to make this season feel so meaningful. No, you bring that first with your thoughts and the emotions that those generate, and then with the actions that you take. And just the same as you live in that negative creation cycle for a while, you'll see the reality of that play out. You live in this beautiful, highest and best thought cycle for yourself, and you see that also. You see the evidence of that.
Yeah. It's so funny because looking back, and it's funny, even this episode literally right now today is making me think of things because I just now have let go of some of those things that I was holding on to. But I'm thinking about when I knew that, deep down, I think I knew that I was definitely creating most of it. Deep down, you kind of know that some of the things that you're thinking about aren't really true.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even allow myself to journal because I
you didn't
was
want to know.
Really scared of what would possibly come up in that.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because it's the things I said to you, it sometimes just takes some time and someone to really ask you
the right question or in the right way.
But
I think creating some safety where it's not accusatory, oh, what's wrong with you? It's oh, I've struggled really. I could just see myself there.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting looking back. I wouldn't even allow myself to sit with myself and my own feelings because I didn't even want to admit certain things. Yeah. Because it really is vulnerable, and it just comes back to the beginning of the episode, it's me. It's me. I am the one creating this, and it's a lot easier to blame other circumstances. It's just not actually easier, because I think back to, I'm I didn't feel good, and everything was actually so much harder to do.
Yep. So. Yeah, and one of the things that I love helping people with is to live with more energy. And I think literally your thoughts are creating them or not. So is the way you're thinking about your life.
I have never experienced quite so much. When I tell you this last month, I told it to my roommates because I was feeling it. I think it culminated to a point where I was okay, this actually isn't normal how I'm feeling. I can't do much. And so I shared it with them too because I just talked to you on the phone, how physically, actually tired I felt. Every morning I woke up, I felt like I could go right back to sleep. Yeah. And then once I was up, I still anywhere I was.
And again, for everyone in podcast land, we are going to have some things checked out. She's going to have some blood work, so don't worry.
No, don't worry.
They're all going to be worried about you, Em.
No,
But I'm
there
just saying,
always could be
since
something.
You allowed yourself to talk about this.
But I'm not even kidding. I don't think I've ever experienced something so immediate and physical of after we were in the car. I told Mom in the moment, I was I literally feel different after that. And I'm not saying, there could be, I'm going to get my blood work done. I could have an iron deficiency or something, but I have not felt like that the past couple days. Yeah. And I also think, the power of my mind, especially just how I am, I can convince myself to feel any certain way, and it's crazy to me.
And I think we forget that. And I think we forget, oh, I have this at my fingertips at any moment. If I exercise it, most people don't, but if I exercise it, I have this freedom to create for myself the exact experience of life that I want to experience. And I talked about this before, but it doesn't mean that you're always going to be happy. When we were leaving Ellie on Sunday, I experienced some of the most profound heartbreak and grief that I felt in a long time. I cried like a baby. I cried till the West Virginia line.
Yes, she
Emily
did.
May.
She was going to drive, and I was like, I got you, girl.
I got you. You can't see through your tears. So you can it can be grief that you're experiencing. But when I experience grief, I want to go all in. Yes. I want to have passionate grief, even joyful grief, the fullest expression of that. And that way of experiencing life to me has just been such a huge gift. So if this resonates with you and you know that you need to sit down with a piece of paper and kind of work through these cycles, ask yourself where you are and where you want to go, I do want to let you know that we are about to host, we only do this 4 times a year, but we are about to host a 3-day workshop where we are going to explore this. We are going to help you build these tools. We're going to give you the exact steps that you need to take. If you know, like, yeah, I've been living in this and it feels impossible. I don't know if I can get out of it. I promise you, you can. I promise you there's hope. And listen, if I can get out of mine, you guys, anybody can do this. And I love watching women in these workshops have such amazing epiphanies, have such amazing, it's like what you experienced in the car. Powerful transformation that almost feels instantaneous, where you instantaneously are like, oh my gosh, I feel so much relief. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like we put too much pressure on ourselves to try to figure that out by ourselves. And like sometimes it simply just takes someone else.
Yeah.
Like saying it out loud and kind of validating your experience for you to be like, wait, that is exactly how I felt.
Yeah. And we're going to take you through 3 powerful days of this, literally for the price of a Starbucks. It's $7 to join the workshop. It'll be the best gift you give yourself all year. It also, because we're headed into the last 90 days of the year, it will give you such a fresh perspective and such a beautiful, powerful way to kind of end your year. And the way we end something is often the way we start something else. So, you know, kind of ending this year and going into 2025, this is such a great gift to give yourself. The other thing that we're doing this time, you guys, you ask us this all the time, and we are making it happen at this workshop. If you do the upgrade to $27, you get our actual brand new dream planner. It's called Design Your Life, Live Your Purpose.
It might be my favorite planner.
It's so good. I don't have it to show you if you're watching on YouTube, but if you go to the workshop page, so you just go to ediewadsworthcoaching.com/purpose, go there, you'll be able to see a picture of it. It's beautiful. You're also going to get our free planner course that teaches you how to use our planner. The big reason we don't sell our planner to the public is because there's little things in there like these thought cycles and creation cycles and stuff that people wouldn't really know how to use. So we're going to give you our planner course where we teach you how to use it, so that you get for the upgrade. So this is going to be such an exciting workshop.
It's going to be so good.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Emme.
Yeah, that was a good one. So I feel like light as a feather right now.
I know. Let's go.
Don't be worried about me, okay?
Let's go do some things full of purpose and joy and meaning and energy.
Do it.
All right. Thanks, you guys.